Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar, Reimagine Business Productivity with Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Selena Florendo, and I am the marketing lead here at Emergent. I just wanted to quickly go through a couple housekeeping notes before we get started. We love your questions, so if you have any that pop up during the presentation, please submit them using the questions pane in your GoToWebinar console, and we'll respond to them during the Q&A period after the presentation. We also love your feedback, so we'd actually like to ask you to complete the short survey that will appear as soon as you leave the webinar. Your feedback helps us make sure that we continue to deliver content that matters to you. And lastly, you'll see that we've provided the Business Central Capabilities Guide and the Handouts panel for you to download. Okay, so let's get started. I'll pass it on to Aaron Samuel, our Business Central guru, who will be your speaker for today. Aaron, take it away.
Thanks, Selena. Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Today, we'll be talking about Microsoft Dynamics 365, and specifically an application that's part of this lineup called Business Central. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we'll do a little bit of introductions about who Emergent is and what we do. We'll talk about what Business Central is specifically, and then we'll take a deep dive into the program itself, and I'll show you around the program, how it operates, and a lot of the advantages and new features that we're seeing with this product lineup from Microsoft. Then we'll jump into a little bit about the most important stuff, the money, and we'll take a quick look at Business Central's closest competitor, which is QuickBooks, and then we'll have time at the end of the session for some questions and answers. So as Selena said, my name is Aaron Samuel. I'm a solution architect with Emergent. I'm a relatively new member of the team, but Emergent themselves have been around Bermuda for over 30 years. We have just over 30 team members in our organization, and we service over 150 clients in and around Bermuda and the islands. Now, our clients span many different industries, so we have a lot of insurance and reinsurance clients. We have large clients right down to small 1 and 2 people operations. And really, we kind of focus on helping anybody out with their ERP systems. Now, we don't only focus on ERP systems. Emergent also specializes in working with finance and performance management, human capital management systems, so time off and attendance, operations management, customer relationship management, so Microsoft CRM is a very favorite product of ours. We also get into some technology services, so we can help you link these systems to send data back and forth and kind of automate a lot of this process and data flowing around your organization. And more recently, a big trend in the industry is business intelligence and reporting. And we have a very big growing Power BI and PowerApps practice. So we can definitely come in and help your organization get your business intelligence and reporting up and running. So specifically today, what we're going to be talking about is a program called Microsoft Dynamics 365, and it's Business Central. And so what is Business Central? It is part of the Office 365 ecosystem. Many of you may know the 365 ecosystem is kind of a relatively new product from Microsoft. If you've had to upgrade your Word or your Excel program lately, this is kind of your introduction into this new ecosystem. And so it's their cloud-based technology. And you'll notice that with Word and Excel and PowerPoint, on the latest versions, you now access it in the cloud. And they're starting to drive this out with Outlook, your Exchange server, and a lot of different products. And this is where we're going to find Business Central. So under the Office 365 platform, we have Microsoft Dynamics. And under Microsoft Dynamics, you'll see that there's a couple different applications that are stored under this lineup. So one is the Microsoft CRM system, and a lot of people are familiar with this as customer resource management. And this helps us drive sales and relationships with our customers and marketing and that type of stuff. We also have a much larger accounting system that's available, and it's called Finance and Operations. And it's really meant for organizations that are about 50 employees or 50 licenses and larger. They get into manufacturing and big sales and global operations. Today, though, we're focusing on the mid-range and small accounting system called Business Central. And this is a lot more appropriate for the customers that we find and the clients that we find around Bermuda and the islands. It's really meant for that 50 employees and under mark, um, and it's a fully self-contained ERP system. So by using Office 365 and Business Central, we start to leverage all the other programs and all the other information that we have flowing through Office 365. So we'll start to see Power BI as a reporting system. You'll see that Microsoft uses Cortana Intelligence behind the scenes to analyze your data and to help give you recommendations on how to better improve the process in your organization. We also have the ability to start looking at Azure as a hosting platform. And with that, we can spin up servers, virtual servers, and we also get into OneDrive and cloud-based storage for your documents. And of course, we have the Internet of Things at that point. So we can start using this cloud-based technology to share information not only with Office 365, but with other third-party applications and other web-based programs you may be using. And all of this is possible by using the underlying applications called PowerApps, Microsoft Flow, and a common data service. And this common data service is what shares the information now across all of the Microsoft applications. And I'll show you exactly what we mean by this as we go through our presentation today. Now, ideally, we want to deploy this into the cloud. It's best represented when we actually do the cloud deployment. And with that, anywhere that you have an internet connection, you're going to be able to access it. This application is available in a hybrid deployment and on an on-premise deployment as well. So if that meets your needs of your organization, we can always talk about doing a different type of deployment of this application. So what exactly is the Microsoft Cloud? And it's kind of a new terminology that we've heard over the past couple of years, and a lot of people are really starting to get familiar with what it means to be working in the cloud, having your data stored up in the cloud. And really what the cloud means is a bunch of data centers that Microsoft has dotted around the globe. So just like Apple, just like Google, just like all these other large companies, they're buying up this real estate around the world, putting in major data centers, and they're hosting the data for you. Now, we get a lot of benefits when we move into the Microsoft Cloud. We can start utilizing the automatic backup of data. So this means that your data is always saved. And you'll notice as I move through the demo today that I never actually have to click save on anything. If we have a power failure, if we have a system corruption, anything happens, your data up until that point is always saved and always current. Now, this also means that we start automating our disaster recovery plans. By having your data stored up in the Microsoft Cloud, if you ever have a critical system error or something that's most common nowadays, if you ever get hacked or you have ransomware on your system, your data is always protected up in the cloud. So disaster recovery at that point becomes just as easy as going to a computer that's not infected, accessing the internet, and logging into your information, and your data is protected there. The other main advantage that we have by using the Microsoft Cloud area is automatic updates. And so this we see as a big requirement from a lot of board of directors and stuff like that being pushed down to organizations to stay current on the most up-to-date version of the accounting platform and really all of your operation systems. And so what Microsoft is doing is because they are hosting the data behind the scenes, they have access to kind of the structure and the program itself. They're pushing out right now a biannual update for the program. So every spring we see an update that comes out, and every fall we see an update that comes out. And with this update, they push new features and they fix bugs and they do stuff like that. But it means you as an organization will always stay on the most up-to-date version of this application. And as always, we have the Microsoft security team, which is protecting your data. So one of the biggest questions I get, or one of the biggest comments we seem to get, is we're very scared of the cloud. We're scared of putting our data in someone else's hands. And you can take comfort in knowing that Microsoft has an entire team of people that work 24/7 protecting this data. So it's up in their servers, it's up in their cloud, and it's being protected. And they're putting a lot more effort and a lot more effort behind protecting this data than maybe you would be able to as a smaller organization. Now, probably the best thing about being in the Microsoft cloud or using a cloud-based program is the ability now to access your data across multiple platforms. So it truly is accessible through a computer, through a tablet, and through your phone. And their applications are all based on HTML5 coding, which means it doesn't matter what platform or what technology you're using to access your data, their applications resize and it's formatted proper for the device that you're using. And then we can also get these applications on Windows platform, iOS, and Android. So really you can take the work with you to the office, you can take it to the coffee shop, you could be sitting in an airport on your phone and be able to access your data, run transactions, complete sales orders. Your salespeople out in the field, they can be on site with a client and easily spin up an order straight from their cell phone. Now, Business Central specifically is a full ERP system, and this is where we're going to see a lot of differences when we take a look at it compared to some of the other systems in the same marketplace. So with a basic license, and we'll talk about that later on in today's presentation, we get financial management, so we get our accounts payable, our bank, fixed assets, and that type of stuff. We get sales and service management, so we get to do invoicing and quotes and that type of stuff. Project management, and we'll touch on that quickly today, but there is a built-in project management system. Supply chain management, so it handles all type of inventory and production of inventory and manufacturing. Operations management, so there is a little bit of forecasting and production planning that is available using that Cortana intelligence to kind of analyze the data and give you some information. And of course, any good system, we get reporting and analytics out from it. So by using the built-in reports, by using Power BI, we get this automatic update of reporting and information at our fingertips. Probably one of the best features that we're going to see today is really the integration of this product across all of the other Microsoft products. So on the left side of the screen, you're going to see that all of the Office 365 products now integrate with Business Central in one way or another. So we have Power BI, we have Word and Excel, we have Outlook. All those applications are really sharing that data on the background using that common data service. On the right side, you're going to see something called extensions, and we'll talk about this a bit today and look at the extension marketplace. But Microsoft has really built in this gateway to allow third-party people to be able to connect into the ERP system. So whether it be a third party adding in additional functionality or you being able to connect into a third-party provider and transfer data back and forth. So enough about what Business Central is. Let's actually jump into the program and we'll start taking a look at how this functions. So as I said, it being a cloud-based system, in order to access Business Central, we're going to log into office.com. And right here, we can start seeing this Office 365 ecosystem now. So we have our Outlook, we have OneDrive, Word and Excel, PowerPoint. So we're really getting all of these applications now, and you can kind of see how they're going to start sharing data. Specifically, Business Central is located under the Dynamics 365 lineup of applications. So I'm going to click on that. And under here is where we're going to find talent. That's kind of the HR system, onboarding and attracting time off and attendance. This is where you would also find applications like the much larger ERP system again, and Microsoft CRM. But today we're going to be focusing on Business Central. So to access Business Central, I can click on the tile and it's going to dive into the program for me. Now, this is one way to access it. Again, we can download those applications straight to our system. So I could technically click on my Start button here and open up Business Central as an application as well. Both of them, you do need to be connected to the internet, but as long as you have that connection, you can open up your application and you can process transactions. So you'll notice that as soon as I jump into Business Central, the first thing that you're going to see is it's very graphically driven. So they're really trying to put information at your fingertips. In the top left, we get some insights from the last month of operations. So it's telling us what our top sales are, who our top customer is, what was our largest invoice. So we're really getting that analysis, the AI behind the scenes looking at our information. We can scroll down our home page and we start to see some activities going on. And again, any of these fields we can click on and it's going to give us some sort of information. So here I can see I have overdue purchase invoices. If I click on it, a new tile is going to open up and it's going to show me the source of that information. Now, one thing that you'll notice as soon as a tile opens up, the one behind disappears. So this really is just meant as a very friendly user interface in that I have one tile at a time. I don't have multiple windows open. I'm not getting lost or trying to hunt back for information. And again, the automatic saves, as soon as I click off of this window, anything that I've done in that window will automatically save. Now, taking a look at our home page further, we again have some more information, outgoing sales and purchases and payments, some quick links to start different transactions right from the home page. But we get down to more information. So we have some insights and there's built-in charts that we can take a look at. So as we scroll through these charts, they're going to give us different types of analysis, different types of information about our organization. And again, each of these are clickable, so we can drive down to the information that's making up that chart. And you can see when I click on the drop down, we can also change whether it's by week or by month or by year, and we can get some information behind this chart. Scrolling down a little bit more, continuing with this information idea, we get some favorite accounts that I always work with. Again, I can click on the balances, drive down into it, a quick trial balance about what's happening around the organization. We'll talk about scheduling reports later on in the demo today. But the one thing I want to focus on here is Power BI reports. And this is the first time that we really see Power BI coming into play within Business Central. But I'm going to point this out as we move through the demo today, that they've really embedded Power BI analytics into different points of the program to really give us up-to-date information, visual graphs, charts, and KPIs on what's happening with our data. Now, the way that I see the application can be slightly different than the user that's sitting next to me. And this may be based on our roles in the organization. So Business Central is a role-based ERP system. So what this means is I can go up and I can change my role. And based on the role I select, it's going to base the information that it's trying to present to me. So say I went down and changed my role to a project manager, I'm going to start seeing the modules that deal with project management, with jobs, time entry, sales invoices, that type of information. If I go down to a sales relationship manager, I'm really going to be focused on customers, sales, what's happening, who's overdue, what's the orders that's flowing through our system. Now, each of these roles then becomes security profiles. So we can really get into the system and lock down security as well. So either based on a specific user or based on a role, we can lock down what window, what information they have access to. Now, like any good ERP system, it is fully auditable. So what this means is that your auditors can walk in and trust the data that's within the system. For example, if we go in and we do a transaction and the transaction's incorrect, we can't go back in history and change anything. So anything that's posted actually stays posted. You have to do a reversing entry and you have to correct it. Auditors really like that point. Now we can also change our company from our settings here, so we can have as many different companies as you need to. The system does do intercompany transactions as well. So if we have multiple companies within your organization, we can flow transactions throughout those companies. Now, Business Central, if you're familiar with any of the other Microsoft ERP systems, follows along kind of the same design. So it is modular based. So as we're accessing the different modules today, they're basically categorized to the function around the organization. So first, we're going to take a look at the finance module, and kind of the backbone of any accounting system, the backbone of any accounting department is going to be our chart of accounts. Now here's something that you'll notice is a big difference or difference from other Microsoft systems. Our account number is a single number. So we do not have any segments within this chart of accounts. Now, as we build our chart of accounts in Business Central, you'll notice that we also have totaling accounts that are built right in. So we really designed the chart of accounts right out of the box to make sure that it corresponds to your basic balance sheet and your income statement. And from this, it allows us to generate those financial statements quick and easy, and I'll show that in a couple minutes. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, that's great, I have my chart of accounts, but I want to track additional information. What about my departments? What about my divisions? What about my customer groups or my vendor groups or some other kind of analysis around the organization? So what Microsoft has done here is they've deployed something called dimensions. In our dimensions, we can create as many types of information that we want to track around the system as you do around your organization. So whether this be a department or the customer group or the region, we would create a dimension that tracks that. And then we can assign those as default on certain transactions around the system, or they can be available for every single transaction. You can require them and you cannot require them. But for example, if I take a look at my department and I drill down and take a look at the values, we can see these are all the departments around the organization. So now that we have our chart of account and we have our dimensions, what we can start looking at is how do we start reporting on our financial data? And there's a couple different ways that we can do this. So right from our home page again, you'll notice that I have Excel reports. And from our Excel reports, we can easily take the balance sheet, the income statement, probably the best thing that every accountant jumps up and down for, we can take it to the cash flow statement right away. So by clicking on any of these, Excel will automatically open up for us. And when Excel opens up, you'll see that we have this integration now into Business Central. So this is kind of the beginning that we're seeing this connection between the Microsoft products. And from any report, I can see that I have my income statement here. I can refresh the data, so I can actually save this Excel workbook somewhere on my network, open it up, and as long as I'm a user within the system, I can refresh it. We can also add some filters. So right from here, I can go back and I can change my date filter and I can add, I can refresh it for a different date. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can take it straight to a financial statement or a report itself. And so if I print my income statement here, you can see we get a couple different options that we can do, and I have my budget assigned here. We'll talk about that in a minute. We can preview this on screen. So very quickly we can see it pop up. Or we can actually send this report outside of the system. And by that, I mean we can actually take it to a PDF document, a Microsoft Word document, a nice formatted Excel document as we saw earlier, or we can take it to something called a schedule. And the nice thing with the schedule is we can actually run this report on a certain day and time every single week. And what this allows us to do, as we saw down at the bottom, when you log into the system, your report is available for you. Every Sunday night it runs, every Monday morning you come in and you have access to up-to-date financials. Now that's great. These reports are based on the way that our chart of accounts has been designed and those totaling accounts. But we know that as an organization, we analyze our balance sheet and our income statement many more ways than that. So what we can do here is we can go in and we can take a look at the account schedules. And account schedules are a quick way to kind of change the layout or the way that we're analyzing our data. So right out of the box, we get our cash flow, income statement, retained earnings, and balance sheet. And we can see this by clicking on there and clicking on Overview. And this will give us an inside the application view of our balance sheet or our income statement. Now from here, we can also take it out to Excel. We can export it out to Excel. Now from these, we may want to change the way that we're analyzing our income statement and balance sheet. So from here, we can actually edit the account schedule, or we can create a new account schedule. And what this will let you do is reset the alignment or create your own income statement and balance sheet, or versions of those income statements and balance sheets. We can also go in here and we can edit the column layout. So maybe you want to see departments, maybe you want to see budget to actual and variance columns and an annual beside it. So it's kind of a mini reporting system that we can set up, and it's very user friendly so that these your accounting staff can do it. We don't need to go to the IT department to create our reports. Now, when we're looking at these reports, you'll notice that we have an analysis view. So this is where the dimensions come into play. So once we set up our income statement or balance sheet, maybe in a different format or the same format that we have right now, we can overlay an analysis. And when we're looking at an analysis, we're basically taking a bunch of these dimensions that we want to see, putting them together, and then rerunning the report based on those dimensions. So maybe we want to see the income statement by department and by customer group. Maybe we want to see it by region, by department. So we can combine a couple of those dimensions together, overlay it on one of our layouts, click Process or click Report, and we can actually print these out with those analysis views laying on top of it. Now, Business Central does have GL budgets that are built in. On top of GL budgets, you can also do sales budgets and purchasing budgets. So we can do 3 budgets. They're completely independent of each other, meaning that we can budget the GL account lines. We can go in and budget what we expect to see from our top sales customers, or what we're expecting to pay on our vendors, maybe on capital projects or different departments. But very simply, taking a look at our GL budget, we can see we can create as many budget cards as we want to. We can even budget by dimension. So we can upload multiple budgets, say by department or by customer group or by region. And it very much is a budget by Excel process. So as I drill down on my budget, I can see that I have the information here. And we can take that and we can actually import and export from Excel. After we export to Excel, it's just a simple process of going into your Excel file by your periods and filling out what you expect your period to be. Once you save that data, you would import it back in, and then you have that budget that you can start using in your income statement, in your balance sheet, and your analysis views. Now, also under the finance module, we're going to see the fact that we have multiple currencies. So it is a multi-currency system, and we can create as many currencies as we want to. One of the biggest advantages that we're going to find with the currency system here is the ability to tie it into an exchange rate service right from the program itself. So you may have a service that you're paying for, and we can connect it to that service. But I also know there's some free services out there, such as the Bank of Canada. And we can tie in your exchange rates to, say, the Bank of Canada rate. And it's updating your exchange rate as easy as going in and saying update exchange rates. It will look at the last time it was updated, what today's date is, and it will fill out the daily rate right up until today. And we can specify whether it does it by month, by day, by hour, depending on how fine-tuned you want to get there. So the next thing we're going to do is take a look at the cash management module. So when we go in here, like any good ERP system, we can set up multiple checkbooks. Probably one of the best things that we see with our checkbooks here is we can actually connect it into a bank itself. So I know the banks in Bermuda and some of the islands are a little slow getting up to speed with this new technology, but we can actually go in and we can connect it into the bank itself. And so what this means is we can pull back the transactions that are happening online right into our financial system. Now, if that's not available, what we can do is a bank statement, and we can actually upload the information. So you would download it from your bank, you would upload it into the system, and we can do that automatic reconcile. It gives us a confidence level of whether it's high, medium, or low, that it's matched the transactions. And if it's matched incorrectly, you would match it manually. Now, a slight difference that we're going to see from other Microsoft products is cash management is also where we're going to do our cash receipts and our cash payments. Now, the system does do check printing, and it does do EFT and ACH transmissions as well. Probably one of the best benefits moving into kind of the modern world is we can actually connect payment services as well. So you may be using a third-party payment service such as PayPal to send out invoices and accepting cash from your customers. And we can actually connect this system into a PayPal service account so that we're transferring information and transferring cash back and forth between your PayPal account and your regular bank account. Now that we have our chart of accounts designed the way it's supposed to, we have all the information contained in here, we can also take a look at our cash flow forecasts. So it really does come in, and it allows us to create that automatic cash flow for us. And then running your report is as easy as running your income statement and your balance sheet. We can do one-time events in here to make sure our cash flow is up to date and knows what's coming up down the road. Or we can take a look at our cash flow statements that'll let us know what's happened in history and how everything is reconciling. Moving forward a bit more, we're going to go into the sales module. And under the sales module, the first thing that we're going to look at items. So again, we are a full ERP system. This means that we can contain items, whether these be services that you sell as an organization or actual physical goods. And you can see again, once we click in here, we get a very visual representation of what it is that we're selling. So we can attach some images to it. If I click on any of our items that we're selling, we have some statistics and costing, replenishment and planning. We also have multiple sites and warehouses, so it's a very robust ERP system that way. Now we can also attach attributes. So if we're searching through the system or we're doing a product catalog for one of our customers, we can contain those attributes and what's happening with our information. Now items do connect into the purchase order system. So as we're purchasing goods, it'll replenish our inventory. And then as we sell the goods, it will deplete our inventory. And we can do forecasting and item resource planning based on that. So we can say that we're getting low on a resource and we need to actually purchase more goods to replenish that stock. Now, what you may have noticed on the right-hand side, as I click on an item, this is kind of the first time you're going to see Power BI come into play. And so as I clicked on that item, we see some Power BI reports, and it's really analyzing what's happening with our inventory item. If this is a service, we could see the same thing. How much of this service is actually being sold? As we scroll down, we start to get more statistics about what's happening with the item that I've clicked on. So the item number, whether or not it's been posted to the GL, how many outstanding orders we have on it, and the attributes that are happening with it. And again, if we set up this sales forecasting tool that's behind the scenes, Cortana Intelligence is going to look at what we're selling over history and make recommendations on how you should be increasing your inventory. So the natural next step from our sales, once we take a look at our inventory, is going to be our customers. And again, I can click on my customers module here, and we can see the information in a visually graphic representation. Again, once I click on a customer, I can see some Power BI reports based on them. I get some quick links to some information about outstanding sales, outstanding orders. If I scroll down a little bit further, I get some statistics. And again, I can click on any of these statistics. It's going to open up with a new window, and it's going to show me what makes up that statistic. Now we can change the way that we see some of these windows as well. So I can go over to my selection here and I can do tall tiles. Very scary seeing pictures of your customers up close like that. But we can even take it one step further and we can go to a list. And when we go to a list, one of the best advantages is we can start seeing some more information about what's happening with our customers. And again, each of these we can click on and drill down to. Now, another way that we can take a look at information in many ways throughout Business Central is on any page we can actually open an Excel or we can edit an Excel. Now, opening an Excel will basically give us a download of the information that we're looking at in Excel, but we can also edit this stuff in Excel. And when we edit it in Excel, what it allows us to do is open up our Excel program. And again, we get that application that will load up for us. I may have an error with that. I do. When we jump into our application here, we can see we get that add in again, but what we can do at this point, say for a simple journal entry, we can add in the information for our journal entry and we can publish it back into the program. So we can make those edits within Excel if we have to change, say, a large number of customers, or we want to, in this case, upload a journal entry into the system. We can add new lines, we can do new information. So if I add a new line in here, I can fill out the information for my journal and I can click publish, and that's going to send the information back to the Business Central program. And that's pretty much available everywhere within the program. Now, like any good sales module, we're going to be able to do sales quotes to sales orders to sales invoices. We can do some picking tickets and stuff like that if you are handling actual physical inventory. If we take a look at a sales invoice, for example, again, we have statistics that are forefront and center. We can see the lines that we have. So we can sell out items, we can sell out GL accounts. We really have a lot of information. And right from this point, we can do our posting. So we can post this, we can post and do a new one, but we can also post and send. So because this links into our Outlook environment, because it's part of the Office 365 environment, we can send out these invoices by email. We can send out customer statements, we can send out purchase orders, we can send out lots of different information by email from this program. Another thing that you may notice when we're working with this, what you see as columns here may not be exactly how a user that sits next to you uses the program. So there's a couple different ways that we can change the way that we insert information into our windows. So we can go up to the top here and we'll see a personalize. And on any window within the Business Central environment, you can personalize. So we can go in and we can remove fields. We can also specify fields as important data fields. And what that means is as I click tab throughout the program, it will only go through the selected fields that are important. Those are the ones that I need to fill out. But better yet, there may be some fields that are missing that I want to use, or I want to actually remove fields because I don't use location code, for example, and I want to bring in some sort of other field into my environment. So we can really add and kind of change the way that we see these cards being presented to us. Now, the nice thing is, as a personalization, it's for that user only. So as they change their experience and their environment, it doesn't affect anyone else in the organization. However, we can do a global one that will push it down across the entire organization. When we move into purchasing, again, we're going to see kind of the same environment. So we're really going to see our vendors, vendors cards and statistics and Power BI reports. From here, we can do a new purchase invoice, a purchase order, or a credit memo. So it really much flows from the purchase order to the purchase invoice, or we can go straight to the purchase invoice if we're not using POs. Probably one of the big differences that we're going to see in here is something called incoming documents. And this is really where we can start utilizing some other services and some new technology. So with incoming documents, if you subscribe to a service called OCR, or Ocular Reader, Basically, what this will allow you to do is drag and drop a PDF invoice from your vendor, or you can scan in a PDF or scan in an invoice from your vendor, and you can read it. And basically what this will do is send it out to whatever service you subscribe to, and there's a couple different ones we can recommend. They will read it, they will analyze it, and they will send back the information to the Business Central program and actually complete that purchase invoice for you automatically. We can even get to the point where once it's 100% accurate on that vendor, on that invoice type, it will actually post it automatically for us. So the vendor sends in that email, you scanned it in, and it will post and be ready for you to pay it out. Now we do have built-in approvals and workflows throughout the system, and they are very detailed as well. So when I take a look at a workflow, I can actually specify what happens if it's requested to be approved. And we can do this on new customers, new vendors, journal entries, sales documents, and anything within the system. And really what this will do is send out an approval email to whoever the approver is. They can either go into their email, approve, reject, and deny, or they can actually log into the program and they can see that they will have approvals waiting for them and they can approve them right from the Business Central application. Now you'll notice that we can get very specific on what happens with these workflow approvals as well. So if it's approved, go to a certain person. If it's not approved, go to someone else. If it's standing for so long and it hasn't been looked at, then escalate it to someone else. And so we can really control what happens with the workflow around this, around the organization. Now the nice thing is this is all auditable as well. So every workflow approval, we can run reports and we can run lists to provide to your auditors to show that company policies are actually being followed. We do have some self-service information here, so depending on how we set up the program and what you're using it for, we can actually get into something called timesheets. And so we can generate some timesheets for employees, but these become really important when we start looking at kind of the project module or the job module within the system. So you may notice that I haven't seen anything about jobs in here, and that's because I'm a business manager role. But it doesn't mean I don't have access to that part of the system. So up at the top right, I have a light bulb here, and this light bulb opens up a search window for me. And so anything that I'm looking for that I may not see, I can type in, and Business Central is going to recommend either some pages or some tasks. Maybe it's a report I'm looking for, or maybe it's some help files or documentation. So the way that project management works in the system is we create a job, and on a job we can get right down to job planning lines. So maybe you're running a print shop, or maybe you're running some sort of organization where you're actually planning out these jobs to be delivered. We can do start and end dates and budgeting totals and run reports on that. But again, through this integration through the Office products, one of the biggest things we're going to find excuse me while I drill down into it. So if I take a look at this and actually plan my job line, you can see that I've assigned a resource to it. And once I've assigned a resource to it, I can actually go to Outlook and I can send this date and time, this job line, to that user's Outlook. It will put it into their Outlook calendar and tell them where they need to be, what they need to work on. And then we can create those timesheets that we saw, and employees can go in and register the actual time against the job. We'll turn that around into billing this job out to the customer. And again, we really cycle around through the sales module at that point. So not only are there modules within Business Central connected, again, it's also connected into this Office 365 ecosystem. Now we touched on a little bit about the extensions, and one of the things you may have noticed is I don't have payroll within the system. I don't have fleet management or truck management or something like that. So Microsoft has really dialed back on a lot of some of the things that they were providing here. And much like other products like GP or AX and Nav, what we can do is we can go out to the third-party marketplace. And when we go out to the third-party marketplace, Microsoft is looking at these organizations to start developing extensions. And so exactly like how you would use your marketplace or your app store on your Apple phone, or if you go into the Google Play Store, you download applications, Business Central and Microsoft is really focusing on this as well. So we have this extension marketplace, and anybody that wants to develop a third-party application now has to have it tested by Microsoft. They have to prove that it works with the code, it's going to stay updated, it passes all their tests, and they can now put it into the extension marketplace. And this is where we're going to go to find any type of functionality that you were looking for in Business Central that may not be there. The biggest one that we're seeing right now is payroll. So Microsoft's really staying out of that realm here, and we're looking for certain organizations to develop the payroll system for this. And we can see that we have Canadian Payroll, we have Ceridian, all these third parties are starting to develop applications. Now, an application can be one of two things. It can actually overlay additional functionality within Business Central, or if we go into something, say like Expensify. So if you're familiar with it, it's another completely independent web-based expense capture system for your organization. It allows employees to download their application and capture expenses on the go. Now they've published an extension here to Business Central, and basically what it does is build the tunnel so that data can travel from their website into your Business Central application, and you can post those expenses. So really these extensions are doing one of two different things. Again, adding additional functionality, or they're building a tunnel to a different application that allows you to share data back and forth. And I know us as Emergent, we're even looking at developing some of these applications for Bermuda-based companies or companies that are located down in the islands. As we move through our menus here, we get into kind of the last step within Business Central, and it really is this Cortana intelligence. And basically what it's doing is it's analyzing the data behind the scenes for us. Again, it's going to give us some quick KPIs, some information about what's happening around the organization. It's giving us some insights into our company. It's going to allow us to do Power BI reports and analyze our data and dashboards. And probably the most favorite thing, it's analyzing our cash flow for us. So again, Microsoft's really trying to present information to you and bring it to the forefront and allow you to make those business decisions quicker and easier. Now, in carrying with the theme of being able to connect data throughout the Office 365 applications and really speeding up your process and making your accounting process a lot quicker, I'm going to take a dive into Outlook. And this is where we can see this integration really happen. So myself, I've sent in an email here. Please send me an order for 1,000 units. So you've received an email from a customer ordering 1,000 units. Rather than you as a sales associate, or even if we take this on the other side as an accounts payable, you've received that invoice, you can actually go into your Outlook program and you can load up Business Central straight from there. And we can either add this person as a contact, or we can actually create a new sales invoice or purchase invoice straight from Outlook. So say I created a sales order here, it's going to look at who the email came from. And it's going to say, is that person a contact? Do I recognize that company? No, I do not. So I can add myself as a contact and specify either a company or a person. And I'm going to add myself to one of the existing companies here. Now, as I add myself as a contact here, it will add me into Business Central, but not only Business Central, it will add me into, say, Microsoft CRM. So now I become a contact under this company or a brand new company in all three systems. And you can see as soon as I've added myself to this company as a contact, I get the stats and information on that company right from Outlook directly. And so I can create from here a sales order, a purchase invoice, a purchase order, let's say. I can attach the document from here, and I can actually fill out the transactions. So there's no need for me to load up the Business Central application and actually go in and perform that in there. Your AP, your sales associates, everyone can do transactions straight from Outlook directly. So you'll notice that now if I flip into Business Central again, I take a look at my contact list. I can see that I've had myself under this company, Alpine Ski House. Now this is the web-based application, and my actual regular-based one, it's available in the the system application as well. So the next thing that we'll take a look at here is Power BI. So we saw Power BI reports a lot as we were moving through the program, right on our home page, providing statistics on customers and vendors and invoices and everything like that. But Power BI is a separate application as well. So while it's transferring this information back and forth, it's also allowing you to take a look at dashboards and reports. And you can download these applications, again, from that extension marketplace. So they're ones that are available that are already pre-set up. And there we can go in and we can take a look at any of these reports that we've downloaded. And what we're recommending is you can go one step further and you can go into the Pro version. And the Pro version, you can download the desktop version and you can actually start building these reports. And it's a very easy user interface. So we just go out, we fetch the table that we want to grab the information from, and then we can select our chart type, and it's as easy as a drag and drop. So I can select the information that I'm trying to analyze, and I can build these charts. I can publish it back into Power BI, and I can make those reports available for different people, different people around the organization. So again, it's allowing me to do that integration. Now the best thing is Power BI itself then starts to integrate with other products. So I can take Power BI and I can go back into Excel, and you'll notice that I have a Power BI integration here. So we can do our financial statements in Excel, and we can add in some reports or some of those dashboards straight into our financial statements. Or better yet, I can actually go into PowerPoint and we can connect Power BI into PowerPoint. So as you're doing your presentation that you're going to go and make for your board of directors, you can bring in those graphics, you can bring in those charts and those dashboards straight into your presentation. And they will update automatically every time that you open up the PowerPoint presentation. So really we can see we get this flow of data throughout all of our applications. So we're done with the live demo there. What did we see when we went through that? So one, it truly is a cloud-based system. So we're accessing the internet and we can access our data, but we're also accessing other programs that are fully integrated with Office 365. So we can see we can use Outlook and Power BI, and we can connect into Excel, and we can transfer information using this common data source. It is multi-platform, so on your computer, on your tablet, on your cell phone, you can download the app and you can enter in data and see reports. Now, behind the scenes is actually based on something called Nav. So I spoke quickly about Nav before. It was one of the original product lineups from Microsoft. What they've actually done is they've repurposed this and now put it up into the cloud. We get that benefit of automatic upgrades and backups, and we get built-in security and privacy. Now, from an Emergent's point of view, when we're delivering this type of product, we're going to go in and we're going to do a discovery. And really, that's the basis that we need to do with any client. We're going to focus on what your requirements are and whether or not Business Central is good for you and whether you're good for Business Central. We'll put that all together, and if that makes sense, we move into the configuration and training stage, where we'll work with you in order to configure the system correctly. We'll train you on how to use it, and then we'll get you off to the races. We'll get you launched onto the application, and you kind of go live, and we offer that support afterwards to make sure that the system integrity is working and to make sure that you can keep on running smoothly and your organization is running smoothly. Now, probably the biggest question that comes to mind, it's a great product and I love it, but how much is it going to cost me? So there's 3 tiers that we look at when we're looking at the pricing for this. So the very basic tier is one called a team member. And this allows people access into the program. They can submit their timesheets, they can do employee self-service stuff, they can read the reports, and they can approve. The most common license we're going to see is the Essential, which is $70 per user per month. So it is a subscription-based model where every month you pay per user, and it's a seated license for this. And that will give them access to the majority of the program. Now, if you are an organization that's doing service management, so you have service calls and that type of stuff, or you're doing manufacturing where you're actually putting together a final good, we move into the premium, which gives you access to a few more functions and modules within Business Central. So typically what we see at this point is an Essentials license, a Power BI Pro license, and then the license for Office 365. And that takes a common user to $92 per month. Now keep in mind that Office 365 is your Word, your Excel, and your Outlook. So you as an organization may have already transferred to this, and you already have that cost for your employee. So really we're looking at the $70 plus the $10 to get up and running with Business Central and to be able to do those charts and dashboards and graphs with Power BI Pro. Now when we look at the closest competitor, which is QuickBooks, how does this line up? So QuickBooks has a couple of different versions that we can see, and really they're silver, gold, and platinum, which gives you access to all their features and kind of on-site and hosted. Really, it's quite a lot cheaper. Now the closest comparable product with them is the QuickBooks Online Plus, which technically does come in cheaper per month. But you have to be careful when you look at comparison of functions side by side. There's a lot of features that are missing from that. So one of the best things that we see once we start looking at Business Central, again, is this integration across all of the Microsoft products. The automatic push of updates and being able to flow data across all of these applications. And there's a lot more modules that come out with this. So as your company expands, as you expand out your automation, those modules are there and already built in. So I want to say thank you. That's kind of the end of our presentation today, and I want to open up the floor to any questions and answers that we may be able to provide.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Aaron. So it does look like we have a few questions that have come in. I know that it looks like we may go over our time a little bit. So if we'll make sure that we do provide you with email responses to any questions that you have in case you've left already. So the first question that we have here, Aaron, is can you have a personalized chart of accounts, or do you have to use the one provided?
Good question. So the chart of accounts we can do, there is a deployment where there's a standard chart of accounts that we can deploy, or it is fully customizable. And everything in the system, we can start with a blank shell, and you can completely customize everything that's going into the system. So definitely we can gear that towards whatever your organization needs.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next question. How quickly can we set up and implement Business Central?
So Business Central is a very good application for getting up and running. As you can see, we had the native integration with Excel. So within a couple months, and again, it depends on the organization how quickly they can do their testing and they can do their training, but really we're looking at a 2-month deployment for it. Once we do the requirements and make sure everything's good and the system's ready to go for you, we go in and we do the configuration, the training, the user testing, and the deployment. So really you're only looking at maybe a 3-month deployment process with that.
All right. Okay, next question we have here. Are the licenses per user, or can more than one person use them?
So the way that the licenses work is they're based on your Windows license. So just the same as you would log into your Windows in the morning, that's the same identification that we would use to log into Business Central. So what this means is it is a seated license. So as you don't share your password with your colleague to log into your computer, you can't do the same with Business Central, unfortunately. So really that per user per month fee that we were looking at is a seated license, not a shared license.
Okay, just a couple more. How strong is the security for the program?
Very good question, because security is very, very important nowadays. We see this a lot with the ransomware and the hacking that's going on. It is a very, very secure program. So as we saw, it's role-based, so we can specify the role for the user, and those roles can have security permissions behind them. But we can get right down to the point where we specify a single user may have access to a card in the system. They may not have access to that card. So by doing that, we really specify within the organization the segregation of duties. But from an outside point of view, the cloud itself is being protected by Microsoft. So they have an entire team of people that, again, work tirelessly around the clock to make sure that there's nobody hacking into their system.
Great. Okay, we've got two more here. Where does my data reside?
Perfect. So with the cloud, as I was saying, basically what this means is that Microsoft has dotted the world with data centers. Some are in the US, some are over in Britain, some are down in South America, Canada. They're kind of dotted everywhere in the world. And what we can do is when we spin up an instance, or when you spin up an instance of Office 365, we specify what data center you want to actually store your data in. So this really, we see it as a common question here in Bermuda. We have that data governance. So we have to make sure that our data is either on US soil, it's not on US soil, it's contained in Britain, or it's contained in Canada. So we can really specify instances of Business Central or instances of Office 365 are located in a certain area.
All right. And for our last question, does it have single sign-on?
Yes, it does actually. And again, using that Windows credentials that we had talked about with the licensing, really what happens is that becomes your gateway to all of the Office products. So as you would log into your Outlook, you don't have to put in your password every single time. You would log into Business Central, you would log into Excel when you're downloading stuff. You're not going to get that asking for the password. So it's really, once you log into your computer, those credentials are passed to all the programs that you would be using, including Business Central.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. That's the last question for today.
Perfect. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Those were great questions. Again, thank you for attending our webinar today. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to either Emergent, and I have an email address up on the screen here. You can reach out to Selena at our marketing department, and she'll be happy to provide you with some additional information. Again, just to let you know, there will be a survey that pops up after you close out of the webinar. Please do take the time to fill that out. That's going to give us some valuable information and feedback and allow us to present more information to you in the future that's more relevant. So again, thank you very much for attending today's webinar.